Hello everyone, greetings from India. Thank you for joining this lecture. I'm delighted and I'm honored to be part of the BNN's lecture series. I would be presenting on folk healing, care, cure, and wellness in India. Most of us here work on belief, and we can see that folk belief system gathers faith. It gains strength with occasional lucky encounters that have actually worked. This belief further develops into participation in the process of healing, power of healing, and also getting help to get well from the healers. Healers who form very popular sector in India, though this is a non-professional, non-specialized sector. During the next 20 minutes, we'll be discussing on narratives related to belief in folk healings as well as the folk healers. These narratives were collected from my ongoing folk project from two areas in the northern part of India, very small geographical region, and these areas are Braj, that is approximately here in India, as well as from small little villages which are now surrounded by fast growing urbanization, and they are in close proximity to the capital city, New Delhi. On the Indian subcontinent, folk healing and folk healers have been observed as the key to curing both naturally and supernaturally. These healing practices are unusual and crazy, which is also seen as the outcomes of absurdity and superstition. We figured out that the narratives that were collected, they were related to these healings, they still continue to be alive and are still thriving. Now let us have a look at the Indian healthcare system in brief. Though India has a vast healthcare system, nevertheless, we have quite visible differences in the quality of services and facilities. And these services and facilities are quite visible between the rural and the urban areas, as well as between the public and the private healthcare systems. Lately, many of the remote regions too have got medical facilities which are either provided by the Ministry of Health or by the local NGOs who are working in those regions. In 1998, the Supreme Court of India made cross-pathy illegal. According to Indian Medical Council, there are four valid medicine degrees in India: allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurveda, and Unani. But it also states that the medical professionals who have studied multiple systems are allowed to practice only one. The Economic Survey of India 2019-20 has released information regarding the medical infrastructure showing a shortage of doctors in the country. The doctor population ratio in India is 1 is to 1456 against the WHO recommendation of 1 is to 1000. As in 2010, there were approximately 79 lakh registered Ayush doctors. These are the Ayurveda doctors, the Unani and Tib and Siddha doctors who have a college degree. These are trained medical practitioners who are trained in Indian medical concepts and biomedical theories and practices. But here I am going to talk about the so called healers, and I'm not going to talk about these trained medical practitioners. These so called healers comprises approximately 1.5 million providers of folk medicine who deliver healthcare to 900 million Indians living in the rural areas. And yes, these healers who are not trained, they do not have a certified medical degree. When we began to collect narratives from the folk healers practicing in the small villages, they said they were of uh, aware that the government had not recognized them, their profession. But all these healers said that they enjoyed respect and recognition amongst the common people. That is how they earn their living. One of the healers laughed at this question of recognition and said, "Why do you think you had to wait hours for your turn to talk to me? As far as I reckon, these people," talking to the people who were like in queue uh, to get the services of the healer, said, "As far as I reckon, these people must think me highly, else they won't be here, would they?" The folk healing is practiced widely, and we may say we saw many chelas or the disciples staying with their gurus, that's the healers. The healers usually learn from their gurus or their teachers, Maulvi or the tantric, who usually have many, many years of experience. It is a continuous process, a dialogue between our present construction of the past and a tradition that is continuously changing as it is handed down or it flows through the time. One of the healers who wants him to be referred as Hafiz ji said, the tradition of Ustad or the teacher and Shagir, that's the student, is millennia old. I spent most of my life at Hafiz Saab Dargah. I observed my mentor, who was an apprentice of Hafiz Saab himself. The art of healing somebody is seen as sacred, hence, it is highly secretive, mystical, and extremely localized, with knowledge of its practices passed on orally. This healing is used to describe the ways in which people deal with the suffering, while healers are those who have expertise in alleviating suffering. So these folk healers could be men, could be women, or could be transgenders. We interviewed 27 folk healers. Out of the 27 healers, only two were women. While men folk healers are sought after for getting the treatment through various healing methods, women did not enjoy this privilege. They did not enjoy this privilege because they were targets of suspicion and were considered to be churel, that's a witch, rather than a healer. Only few women in India have got the honor of being a woman folk healer. These women folk healers have appropriate knowledge of their field. They are at part their men counterparts, yet they are believed that these type of women is warring elements of established social order, mainly because they have chosen to remain outside of male control and some other varied reasons too. Now, when we talk about the folk healers and their care and cure, folk healers, popularly known as Bhagat, Bhaktin, Bhaktin is the female counterpart, Ojha, Maulavi, Fakir, Mai is another term for the women folk healers in these small geographical areas are seen as wise people, magicians, traditional healers with strong godly, otherworldly, and magical powers. These wise people claim to have the capability to communicate with the superpowers, the expertise to assign consciousness to the invisible supernatural forces seem to be associated with the human's ability to reason out the other human minds. A patient's belief in such all powerful forces built up the confidence of the healers who negotiate their way by almost threatening certain social repercussions. This immense belief becomes stronger with the healer's powerful persuasive skills. Such powers are used to treat simple and complex physical and mental illnesses. It could be bhoot bada, that is the evil spirits to ward off the evil spirits, totka, certain activities that create negative energies, mental stress, injuries, it could be anything, arthritis, back problems, impotency, child problems, or the child birth rearing, birth, anything, business problems, and many more. So these healers talk about or they have a kind of a territory. The healers have exclusive territory, and this is known as kheda. And all the patients and the healers who share their narratives with us are very well aware of this territory. A Pir Baba's mazar sits calmly at the entrance of the village. And in many villages, we see these mazars, that is the Pir Baba's place. And this is actually a small mausoleum of a saint or a notable religious leader from that village. A farmer, Mangal, from a small village, voices his belief. This village is under Pir's territory. He is like our Thanedar. Now, Thanedar is the station house police officer. No one can dare to do any jadoo tona or the black magic or cast an evil eye if Pir doesn't want it. That's the reason we keep on offering the Pir our services and gifts every day. Those who don't do so are vulnerable to these evil activities. These place owners or the caretakers could be a Pir or a Kuldevi that means an ancestral tutelary deity, or Baba Sulli of Palla village, or Dadi Shakti, that is here, it's nearby, of Dujana. Interestingly, the healer's territory has a well defined border, a border which is not mapped in radius, but the political boundary of that village or of that colony or the street. A Bimar or a Faryadi, that means a patient who does not belong to that healer's village or the mohalla, that means of the street. For example, the person could be a migrant or a tenant staying far away from for work purposes. Uh, that patient must spend more money. This extra amount is paid as fees to take permission from the caretaker of that migrant's place, from where the patient belongs to. Now, Bhagat Keshavji explains, please try to understand this way. I have to take permission from patient's Kuldevi, that is ancestral tutelary deity, to perform puja on her inhabitant in this territory. Hence, I'll have to perform another puja, that is rituals, and seek permission before we proceed. And this would involve money to buy certain appeasements. Traditional healers use a place as their territory, viewed by the believers as if they are in consultation with supernatural elements or directly connected with the Almighty. Additionally, certain illnesses are perceived to stem from supernatural, magical, or religious beliefs and hence ought to be cured by traditional treatments or magical spells. The other type of territory is the healer's sacred domain. This usually is in the outskirts of the village, or these are located besides the village temple or a mosque. It could be covered or it could be just an open space. This is usually no one can enter these places without the healer's permission. You have to take permission to get inside that territory. The healer here, please note, is physically present, unlike the spiritual presence of a peer or the Kuldevi. The so-called literate healers claim to have their skills in treating the patients with magical spells and mantra. In bits and pieces from the ancient Indian scripture Atharved, that's roughly translated would be knowledge of fire priest. Atharveda is written in archaic Sanskrit during the 2nd millennium BC. There are series of mantras related to cure various physical and mental diseases. Another class of hymns include prayers for protection from the bite of snakes or injuries due to insects or injurious insects. We find mention and application of medicines and medical herbs. Nowadays, we can get several small booklets, small handbooks, cheap literature published by low budget publishing houses on folk tantra, that is charm, spell, or sorcery. A village tailor's family had brought their 16-year-old daughter, Komal, to this sacred place. Phulo, her mother, speaks up. We feared that someone must have cast a spell on her, and that's when we brought her to Bhagatji. And she says, and she says he knows the cure. But this family did not go to the woman folk healer of that village, Bimla Devi. The women folk healers work from their houses, that is their place, and they maintain a very low profile. These women treat poison, they treat children diseases, diseases of the mind, that's the mental illness. They are specialized in childbirth, they are specialized in other therapies as well. Bimla Devi, the woman folk healer, gets upset and disturbed with my question and says, I learned this folk healing skill from my father. I'm living with my in laws after my marriage, but I'm not allowed even to speak about this skill. I keep on providing help to the village folk who come and take help. See, Pulo didn't bring her daughter near me. They think I'm a chudail, that's the witch. Inside the sacred domain or the territory, the place is utilized as healing environment with objects for cleansing and purification. This place has all the required tools and means to carry out rituals and accompanying sacrifices essential for the purification process. You can see the things that are offered, and this is the place, like almost looks like this, well lit with lots of earthen pots. They keep on lighting up, and the sacrifices nowadays are considered to be illegal in India. So what they do, they just bring the goat inside, or whichever animal has to be sacrificed, and then they just chip off a little bit of the ear of the goat, and then the goat is released. So this is how it goes. The decision of treating anyone is taken by the healer. If the patient is too sick, or even sick to even walk, then there is no need for them to come here. They can be treated by understanding their symptoms. If it is a physical or natural disease, then they must go see a doctor. But if they are under spiritual possession, then the wali or the pir gives them the spiritual water, which is padhawa, or it is like the holy verses are recited into that water. It is supposed to have healing properties. Or there are some prayers that can also be read out on them in the absence of the patient. So now let's have a look at the objects, and these objects with healing properties. Belief narratives speak about mysterious ways, uh, the ways we interact with objects with healing power. Narratives collected from the patients and healers were asked if they had any unusual experience with the objects with healing powers. We can see stories inhabiting a place that extends and changes over time, showing us the relationship between the present and the past. Folk belief in objects and spaces or the places is based on the oral transmission of accounts passed down from generations. We find socially constructed supernatural belief, which are generated by discussing and interpreting the experiences shared by the folks who have already experienced such events. Now, well being is considered to be all about physiological and social satisfaction derived from a range of factors. Objects of healing are one of those. Now, this is Bala Bhagatji, a folk healer, and he says that I do not use putla. Putla is something that is an effigy or a dummy that you use it for the to cast away the bad spirits, or for the evil eye, and they put the dummy, they put a kind of a life into the dummy of the person who has actually uh, cast a spell, and then they do a puja on that. I do not use putla, effigies, or dummies like the other tantric or the other healers do for the healing therapy. I use Raksha Yantras. These are the Raksha Yantras that are here, spiritual pendants to retain that belief, and which helps in cure and well being of the person. As you can see, this is in gold and these pendants are in silver. And accordingly, they are given according to the whoever the client is. So the rich and the poor. So rich will go for the gold. Obviously, the not so rich will go for the silver, and then you have in brass as well. So I observed that the few of the healers were actually practicing by following what is prescribed in the Atharveda. Use of amulet has been mentioned in Atharveda for a variety of reasons. An amulet is considered to be as sacred item which is siddha or spiritually charged with the strength of spirit. Amulets could not only heal but also protect the wearer from evil consequences. Another healer, Hafizji, says, I use small chits of paper which act as an object of healing, and this paper is later folded and enclosed in a kalawa or the thread. You can see the thread over here. So this is the amulet that he's talking about, known as taviz. So this is entire thing is the paper, and it's the kalawa is like woven around it. Sometimes what I write are verses of Quran. Sometimes there are naqsh, particular patterns, crisscross for the particular purpose, zigzag for the others, and so on and so forth. As for other material objects, people bring flowers, rose petals, agarbatti, that is the incense sticks. I chant some verses depending on the requests of the patients, that is the faryadis, and these faryadis take these incense sticks back home and they use it at home. These objects used to ward off bad things are called charms. Here I'm not talking about the ritualized spoken words or sayings that are set on these magical objects, which are used to ward off bad things, that is, the evil spirits and things like that. Now, we talk of a kund. A kund, that is a small pond, is called as a kund. A kund with healing properties. So near Kokila One, Kokila One is near a small uh, town, Mathura. It's in Mathura district, and Kokila One is a normal water pond. It is not a hot spring, stream, or anything of that sort. This is a normal water pond, but thousands of people flock the area on full moon night and the consecutive day to take a dip in small kund, and they have their clothes, slippers, or whatever they are wearing next to the pond after they take the holy dip. That means, once they take the bath and once they come out, they remove, once they're changing, they just leave everything that they were wearing before going into the bath. And once they are out of it, the cleansing is done, the purification is done, and they leave everything over there. So you can see the photograph over here. This is the tree where they put water over here also in the roots of these trees, and they leave everything on this poor tree. So it's like, a huge heap nowadays. So the mandir authorities, the Kokila One temple authorities, they clear it every evening, and you can see the things that are littered all across. So they leave whatever they were wearing next to the pond after they take the holy dip. The magical water of the kund is taken as healer to all the ailments, providing various therapeutic benefits. The pond has been divided into two parts. The one is used by the men. This is by the men. I have not taken the photograph of the women. The kund used by the women, and the other one is used by the women. Several thousands of hopeful visitors gather at Suryakund in hope to get their karma getting better, illness cured, or their wishes being fulfilled. Now, in the same temple complex, this photograph is also about that kund. See how they have just left the things out in search of, like their karma getting better, or the illness getting cured, or even the wishes getting fulfilled. So, in the same temple complex, here there is a sacred tree. Devotees offer water on its roots. Beyond the tree, we find a blank painted wall, white painted wall, where we saw people scribbling something with their bare fingers. No ink was used, no paint was used. Nothing, no, nothing of that sort was used. It was plain, simple thing, like with their bare fingers, they were scribbling certain things. Many believers do not take a holy dip in the pond, but these believers go straight to the tree to seek help. So this is one of the trees, to seek help, and then they offer water over there, and then move further to scribble their wishes on the blank wall with their fingers. The blank walls are here and in this complex with their fingers. They do not write in ink, but they write in thoughts and prayers. The literate scribble with their knowledge of letters, while the illiterate people scribble their expressions by thinking aloud. The walls remain white. They retain their blank look, but carry heavy load of prayers, wishes, and healing. Nothing is offered in cash or kind here. So I met a lady, Seema. She has a narrative, she has a story that she told us, she shared with us. She said, my 11-year-old son used to have problems in sleeping. He used to wake up screaming at around 3 in the morning. He had developed red rash all over his body too. She says, I showed him to many professional doctors, but nothing happened. Then we brought him to Kokila One. That's the Suraj Kund, or the Surya Kund, they say. The boy took a dip in the holy water, and she, that is Seema, I wrote my arzi, a request letter on that wall. She scribbled something on the wall, whatever she had in mind. And now we have come back to pay our gratitude. See, she points out to her son and says, see, he's cured of skin problem and is having no problem in sleeping as well. So that's the belief. Devotion transcends. Not only does it stay through generation, it grows. It grows exponentially, encompassing even the white walls that surround it. A firm belief gets reinforced. For the believers, Almighty or the Supreme Being does not seek for legitimacy. Neither do the Supreme Being necessitate literacy. The worshippers, the seekers, see that lies truly in the heart. They water it, translate it to incomprehensible, whimsical characters of hope and commitment. From the database of around 450 folk tales and folk songs that we have collected, I observe that healing, and not all are on healing, but out of those that are on healing, I observe that healing is considered to be all about physiological and social satisfaction. The narratives by the folk healers and the patients suggest that the healers use varied range of felicitations. They use persuasion skills. They utilize magico religious belief to manipulate local ailment narratives. They manipulate people, they manipulate the relationships, meaning making, and purification. The folk healer's impact appears best for the mild to medium forms of physical or psychological distress. Prayers for wellness is offered, and the belief gets stronger with each individual getting ready to pass over the story of wellness, care, and cure. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.